Okay, let's keep looking at the Emerson here. Bottom of page 1. Um, Emerson says, "So God has armed youth and puberty and manhood with no less of its own piquancy and charm," meaning that like babies are charming and make adults follow them, but God has armed youth and puberty and manhood also with the ability to sort of charm people and control other people, and He's made it enviable and gracious, um, and its claims not to be put by if He will stand by itself. If it will stand by itself, meaning like people like he says that God gives babies the power to sort of control adults because they have an inner strength that people know to follow, and he says actually adults have that same power. That if you don't let you just if you don't give in to other people's thoughts and other people's demands, and you just say like a baby, I know what I want and I demand you give it to me. That people will follow you. And again, every single sentence in Emerson, you can think of good situations and bad situations. And I'd really be interested in hearing your own examples on the discussion board. I'm going to keep coming back to the sort of cult versus the painter, right? If the painter is like, I'm just going to do it my way and I don't care what other people tell me, that's good. But if you're, getting your own guns so you can be your own army because you don't want to rely on other people's armies, and you're going to start following your own laws and not laws other people made for you, like the laws of the United States of America, the country where you live. See, so it goes both ways. It's tricky. All right. So he says, do not think the youth has no force, because he cannot speak to you and me. Hark, in the next room his voice is sufficiently clear and emphatic. It seems he knows how to speak to his contemporaries. Bashful or bold, then, he will know how to make us seniors very unnecessary. Meaning, don't think children don't have any power just because they can't speak, right? He says children will cry loud enough um, that he can make adults do what he wants. He will know how to make us seniors very unnecessary. One thing to think about, one thing that Emerson's doing here, he's saying well, the reason he talks about babies and youths as being very strong, and people think of them as being weak, but actually they have a kind of strength because they haven't been beaten down by the world, right? That's his idea, is that young people are strong because they haven't been beaten down by the world. And as you get older, you start to go, well, that's not possible. Well, other people will make fun of me if I do that. And, I've been alive long enough to know that's not going to work. And I'm not even going to try. So, like, for example, a lot of older people in this country feel like there's no way to have gun control laws in America. People have been trying to do it for decades, and it's impossible. But there was a shooting at a school. There was a school shooting, and some of the kids, the survivors of that shooting, became gun control activists. And it's amazing because they're so young, they haven't given up on America as something that could be fixed. Whereas most older people are just like, yeah, you're never going to be able to fix guns in this country. It's too fucked up. It's a permanent problem. But these teenagers from this high school were like, the Parkland survivors. These kids were like, no, we're going to change the gun laws in this country. So it's examples of Emerson likes, he mentions like screaming babies, but he likes youth because they haven't been beaten down by the world and they will still try to do what they know is right. Whereas a lot of adults know what's right, but they go, nah, it's impossible to really do anything because no one will listen to you and you can't really change, America, and people have, they give up on fixing things and changing things. It's worth pointing out, by the way, that Emerson is in America in like 1860. Um, and America in 1860 is a pretty new country. It's actually only been around for about 100 years. Europe goes back like thousands of years in Greece. Like Plato goes all the way back 2,500 years. So a lot of Americans felt like, oh man, Europe is so much better than America because they're so old and powerful, like a grown person. And America's so young, we're basically like a child. And we're young and we don't know how to do things and we're weak. So a lot of people felt like Europe was better because it was older. Emerson shows up to be like, old is bad. Youth is where all the power that he says you are new in nature in that first paragraph. He says youth is where all the power is because when you're young, you follow your own thing and you don't let other people tell you what to do. And you know what's wrong with Europe? They let history books tell them what to do. But Americans have no history books because the country is only 100 years old in 1860. And so he feels like this is he's trying to make Americans feel better because the people thought America was inferior to Europe because Europe was older. And Emerson says, actually, older is bad because old people have given up and they let themselves get pushed around and they accept society as it is and they don't trust themselves to fix it. But youth, it has energy and power and is actually a lot better. So that's one of the places this is coming out of is the idea of America as like a young country. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. I've got a little mini paragraph here. So he says, the nonchalance of boys. Nonchalance is like when you don't care. The nonchalance of boys who are sure of dinner and would disdain as much as a lord to do or say aught to conciliate one, is the healthy attitude of human nature. But the man is, as it were, clapped into jail by his consciousness. Okay, that's a tough little paragraph, but we can handle it. So he says nonchalance means you don't really give a shit what other people are doing. The nonchalance of boys who are sure of dinner and would disdain as much as a lord to do or say aught to conciliate one. When you conciliate, you're doing something to make people feel better. Ought here means anything. So he says so his point is that boys, young boys, are like lords in Europe. And these are very different. Like, you're thinking of like teenagers playing around in the street are similar to European lords who like live in a fucking castle and have servants. But he says these two groups are actually really similar. What do they have in common? They will not conciliate. They will not do or say aught to conciliate one. In other words, they won't do or say anything to sort of give in to other people. Why? Because they're confident in their power. He says, boys who are sure of dinner, meaning the idea is you think about like a teenager who just doesn't care because he's got basically his parents are like his servants making him dinner, taking care of him. And he's basically so a teenager in America who knows he's going to have dinner tonight no matter what. He's not worried about anything. His mom's making him dinner. And again, that's a weird image of self-reliance. But the point is the confidence level, right? If you're a kid and you know you're going to have dinner tonight no matter what, you don't care about other people. You're nonchalant. Like you don't care. You're gonna do whatever. You're gonna just do whatever you feel like doing. You're not worried about whether dinner will be on the table tonight. So, you got that. Your mom's taking care of that. You can just be powerful and strong and run around, and you don't care about other people. Like teenage boys, you're just gonna go do whatever the fuck you want. Emerson says this is just like a lord in a castle. Why? Because like a guy who's got his own castle and a bunch of servants, he's in charge. He knows where his next meal is coming from. He's not worried about starving to death. He's confident. The lord in a castle is a confident, controlling, commanding person, and he doesn't do things to just like bow and scrape before the lord is in charge. He's not going to kiss any ass. He's in charge. People should be kissing his ass. That's how teenage boys are. They're not gonna do things to make other people feel better. They're not here to like listen to other people. They're gonna do their own. They have the same confidence that having a castle would give you. Now the fucked up thing that Emerson says here is he says this is the healthy attitude of human nature. Emerson thinks everybody should be like that overconfident teenage boy, or everyone should be like a lord of their own castle. A man's castle is his home. That's Emerson would agree with that. The kind of confidence where you don't have to, because if you don't feel confident, you're like, oh, I better make this person feel better, or I won't get dinner tonight. I better be really nice to my boss, or I won't get a raise, right? I better be, nice to my parents, or I'm going to get in trouble. Teenage boys and lords in castles, they don't care about that. They're not worried about getting in trouble or anything. They're just going to live their life however they're going to live it, and they don't care. That's what Emerson says everybody should be like. Now, you can decide for yourself whether you think teenage boys are a good role model for your life. Some of you are teenage boys. But you can look around and decide whether that's how you want to live forever. There are some drawbacks to nonchalance, means like you don't care. there are some big drawbacks to not caring about other people. But maybe Emerson would probably say I'm corrupted for even saying that, because Emerson's whole point is you should do things your own way and not listen to other people. So I don't know. We'll see.